You've all taken memorable vacations. That first trip to the Grand Canyon, that cruise to Cabo with all your buddies, that time your whole family drove across country to Wally World, but you didn't hear the moose out front tell you that the park was closed. Join me, if you will, in the back seat of my hand-me-down from my mom, Poop Brown Plymouth Reliant, for the little trip down memory lane that my friends still refer to as the 1993 17-state vacation from hell. Now we're going to fast forward through a few parts. The getting trapped in Alabama for 4 days in a blizzard. It's a good story. I'll have to tell it some other time. The torrential rain in New Orleans, flooding in San Antonio, the existential time warp that is Hot Springs, Arkansas. We're going to skip right on past that. Do 1 day of intense laundry back home in Chicago, and then we're headed out west to the beautiful western part of South Dakota, past Mount Rushmore to Custer State Park, a place where they had recently filmed a little movie called Dances with Wolves. Now, we were out there for a work conference, and the park had graciously opened up their staff quarters to us after the long winter shutdown. They hadn't actually ventilated the staff quarters after the long winter shutdown. We didn't find that out till later. But this is a beautiful place. It's a gorgeous park. There's buffalo roaming all over. It's the kind of place where you wake up in the morning and, you can see that the buffalo have actually left their nose prints on your window. I guess they like to feel the pain. Took him a second. So, after a few days at this conference, I got back in the Poop Brown Plymouth Reliant and started my trip back towards Chicago. And I had made it about 90 miles past Wall. If you've ever been to Wall Drug, you know all about Wall, South Dakota. And I was out in Badlands National Park, pretty much the middle of freaking nowhere, when the temperature needle on my car spiked. Blown head gasket. This is pre-cell phone. Waiting around for a tow truck to make it the 90 miles from Rapid City out to Wall, and then tow you the 90 miles back to Rapid City. Look, that's not memory lane. That's like a side street that we'll call repressed memory alley. And they put the car into the shop. I walked across the street to a Perkins restaurant. I was enjoying a nice lunch. I think I had just ordered my pie. There's lessons that you learn in life the hard way. Don't spit into the wind. Never walk barefoot at the dog park. And if you are taken out of a Perkins on a gurney, your lunch is free. I passed out in my pie. Now, it turns out that I was running 104-degree fever when they took me to the hospital and spent the better part of the next day rehydrating me. They just thought it was a bad flu. Separate story, we come to find out later on that because they hadn't ventilated the staff quarters at Custer State Park, a bunch of us at that conference got Legionnaire's disease, which I recommend. It's a fun illness. So after a day in the hospital, they released me on my own recognizance. And I went to try to find a hotel, but discovered that the chief of the Lakota Nation had just died. And everybody was in town for the funeral. Despite what Kevin Costner told us, these Sioux people do not travel with their teepees. There were no hotel rooms to be found. Well, there was the one that I found, which was basically at the end of the runway by the Air Force Base. I think it had hourly rates. But it was the last room in town. I took it. It got 2 TV channels. You could watch the Spanish soap operas or Sesame Street. And after a couple of days of laying in bed in my feverish condition, just burning through boxes of Kleenex, and looking at the TV going, what channel am I watching? 2. I had to get out of there, and I left the room. I walked across the street through the snow and the slush to the shopping mall, and that is where, in my feverish condition, I bought the new album by 4 Non-Blondes. Hey, yeah, what's going on? I can't be held responsible for my actions. I was close to death. The next day, my car was repaired. Paid the garage, looked at my watch, thought it's only 17 hours back to Chicago. They had replaced the head gasket but killed one of my headlights in the process. 17-hour drive back down I-90 all the way home.